Assalamualaikum and good morning to each and everyone. Today we will be discussing the lesson 7 entitled The International Relations together with my partner, Miss Monica Yucas. International relation is the study of how nations and global actors interact within the interconnected world. It also seeks to understand the forces that drive cooperation, competition, and conflict in addressing shared challenges such as security, trade, climate change, and human rights. As the global landscape becomes increasingly complex, the study of these international relations offers valuable perspectives on managing interdependence and fostering the global stability. Now we have the theories of international relations. The first one is what we call the realism. So this realism, meaning to say it is a theory in international relations that emphasizes the role of power, self-interest, and the anarchic nature of the international system. So this is evident in the example of the US or United States. They desire to eliminate perceived threats such as Saddam Hussein regime and protect its strategic interests. According to the realists, the international system is anarchic, meaning to say there is no overarching authority to regulate states' behavior, unlike domestic politics where laws and institutions enforce order. So the second one is the liberalism. So meaning to say this liberalism is the international relations suggests that states can peacefully coexist contrary to the constant conflict suggested by realism. These liberal scholars highlighted that despite armed conflicts, most countries are not at war most of the time. Overall, liberalism proposes that states can peacefully coexist through cooperation, economic and interdependence, and democratic governments. It highlights that international relations do not have to be zero-sum game, and the global institution can help foster peace and support the idea that cooperation can emerge over time and reducing the chances of conflict. The third one is contractivism. It is the international relation focuses on the idea that culture and social structures and human perception shape global politics. It argues that reality is social constructed, meaning that the way state and individuals view the world influence their actions. Unlike realism, which emphasizes that anarchy in the international system requires states to prioritize self-interest and conflict, contractivism suggests that states can choose different paths based on their beliefs and ideas. The number 4 is the feminist. International relations theory challenges traditional male-dominated perspectives in global politics by highlighting the overlooked roles of the woman in the shaping society is international affairs. It argues that women's experiences could offer alternative approaches to peace, security, and diplomacy. So the best example of this feminist is Margaret Thatcher's leadership during the Falklands War, which challenged the idea that women are inherently peaceful. The woman peace movement is liberalist, led by the Leng Bawe, demonstrated women's significant role in peace building. So Marxism and Leninism asserts that world relations are defined by the drive of industrialized nations to control raw materials and markets. Lenin, for example, described the world as divided into core or industrialized nations, and the second is periphery, which is colonized or less developed countries. Reflecting the exploitation of the latter by the former, this analysis was particularly relevant during the period of European colonialism. So example is the China investment in Africa to secure mineral resources for its manufacturing sector. Although China is still officially communist state, its economic system is largely capitalist, leading to exploitation in the form of poor working conditions. In some African countries, this illustrates how from the neo-Marxism perspectives, global economic system continue to serve the interests of capitalist elites that expenses of workers.
So now let's proceed to the meaning of international institution. International institutions are organizations or groups created by countries to work together on solving global problems, keeping peace and making rules that everyone can follow. They exist because some problems like wars, climate change, or trade affect the whole world and need cooperation to fix. An example of international institution is the United Nations or UN. Helps countries solve conflicts, protect human rights, and fight global problems like hunger or disease. The World Health Organization. It works to improve health worldwide like fighting diseases such as COVID-19. The World Trade Organization. It helps countries trade fairly and solve disagreement about trade. The number 4 is the European Union, a group of European countries that work together on trade and laws using the same currency, which is euro, and the NATO or North Atlantic Treaty Organization, a defense group where countries promise to protect each other if attacked. In simple terms, think of international institution like a school club where students come together to plan events, solve problems, and make rules everyone agrees to follow. Without the club, it would be harder to solve big issues or work together effectively. And now let's proceed to the United Nations. The United Nations is an international organization created in 1945 after World War II to help countries work together and prevent future wars. Its main goals are to keep peace. The UN helps stop conflicts and send peacekeepers to troubled areas. It protects human rights. It ensures everyone is treated fairly regardless of where they live. It solves the global problems. It works on issues like hunger, poverty, climate change, and diseases. It also supports cooperation. The UN provides a place where countries can discuss problems and find solutions together. The UN has 193 members. The UN has 193 member countries, almost every country in the world, and its headquarters is in New York City. It also has special groups like the World Health Organization and the UNICEF to help with health, education, and children's welfare. And now let's proceed to the League of Nations. The League of Nations was replaced by the United Nations in 1945. The League of Nations was created after World War I to keep peace but failed to prevent World War II. The United Nations was created after World War II to do a better job of promoting peace and helping countries work together. It focuses on stopping wars, protecting human rights, solving global problems, and improving people's lives worldwide. In short, the United Nations replaced the League of Nations because the League of Nations wasn't strong enough to handle big conflicts like World War II. The League of Nations formally dissolved itself on April 18, 1946 and transfer its mission to the United Nations to maintain international peace and promote cooperation in solving international economic, social, and humanitarian problems. And now let's proceed to the United Nations peacekeeping. The United Nations peacekeeping started in 1948 to help stop conflicts and maintain peace. The first mission was in the Middle East during the Arab-Israeli War. Since then, peacekeepers have been involved in 63 missions worldwide, with 17 still ongoing today. They even won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1988. The peacekeeping works through the UN Charter. Its rulebook doesn't mention peacekeeping directly, but the idea comes from the parts of it. Chapter 6, which is help solve problem peacefully. In Chapter 7, allows the use of sanction or military action if needed. During the Cold War in 1947 and 1991, the Cold War made peacekeeping difficult because the US and the USSR were often on opposite sides of conflict. Still, the UN managed to act in some areas like ending the Suez Crisis in 1956, restoring order in Congo during the 1960s, keeping peace in Cyprus between Greek and Turkish communities. Sometimes, the UN couldn't act because of political disagreement, especially when conflicts were tied to the Cold War. After the Cold War 1991 to now, when the Cold War ended, the UN became more active, the Security Council starting working better together, allowing more peacekeeping missions to end civil wars like in Georgia and Tajikistan. It helps organize elections and rebuild countries after conflicts. The UN also created the Department of Peacekeeping Operations in 1992 to handle the growing demand for missions. It also faces modern challenges. Today, peacekeeping focuses on issues like terrorism, environmental problems, and global conflicts. While the world still has problems, it's less about nuclear standoffs like during the Cold War and more about managing resources and regional tensions. Peacekeeping has become more complex, but it remains a key part of maintaining global stability. And now let's proceed to the global and political landscape. The global and political landscape refers to the overall situation, trends, and relationship among countries and governments worldwide. It includes how nations interact, make decisions, and address shared problems like trade, security, climate change, and human rights. The global involves the whole world, including international organizations like the United Nations, and issues that cross borders, such as pandemics or global warming. The political, it focuses on power, leadership, policies, and decisions made by governments or leaders, both within countries and internationally. For example, after the Cold War, the global political landscape changed from being dominated by two superpowers, which is USA and USSR, to a more complex system with multiple influential countries like the USA, China, India, and regional organizations like the European Union. That's all, and thank you for listening to the topic.